What's up guys, welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you'd like to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
Your codename is Billy, right? Alright. I'll allow you to join the team, no reason to reject you. Your strength is on par with Minamoto over there, and with some enhancements to your weaponry, I believe both of you can become far more formidable.
With her decision made, she asked Minamoto and Billy to hand over their weapons. Minamoto willingly surrendered his beloved blade, while Billy offered up his cherished Smith & Wesson Model 27 revolver. Velgrund accepted them and immediately transformed them into god-class weapons. Both men were astonished at how significantly deadlier their weapons had become. Tensei, having experienced this before, was less surprised and simply nodded, wearing a calm expression. The 7 sacred treasures in the room were less composed, stunned by how freely Velgrund bestowed these god-class artifacts to other nations. However, given the urgency of the situation, they understood that these weapons would undoubtedly prove invaluable in battle, and Akira Sakura did not voice any objections.
This should enhance your capabilities somewhat. However, let me make one thing clear. The true power among you all lies solely with Xianhua, and her alone. What was your name again? Bright?
Yes, my lady.
Right. Among the rest, you show the most promise, but you're still barely tapping into 3% of your god-class weapons potential. The others aren't even close, maybe reaching 1 or 2%. I expect to see greater effort from each of you.
If they could unlock the full potential of a god-class weapon, it would transform them into spiritual beings capable of single-handedly defeating most Yoma. At this juncture, such a transformation remained an exceedingly distant possibility for all of them. Velgrund specifically tailored the Sacred Treasure's weaponry to unlock their powers for the blood descendants of Shin. While competent in wielding these tools, fully realizing their potential remained elusive. However, there was no need for them to feel ashamed. In a world where magicules were scarce, everything became inherently more fragile and vulnerable. Had these individuals traversed between dimensions and undergone physical transformations, they likely would have awakened as enlightened beings, with Xianhua having a high probability of achieving saint status. With the warriors ready, it was time for the grand counteroffensive. Meanwhile, the Yoma named Delia leisurely strolled around the lavish palace of Great Roziam. In her human years, Delia had held the 4th spot among the 7 sacred treasures. On a crucial day, she had been tasked with a mission, to halt a Yoma named Emil from executing his nefarious plans. However, it had all been an intricate trap orchestrated by Emil himself. Even their intelligence department had fallen into Emil's elaborate web, luring Delia into a deadly confrontation. Despite arriving fully prepared for battle, she suffered a humiliating defeat at the hands of the roughly dressed Emil. It was a crushing experience, but more profoundly, it marked the first time Delia, a dominant force among humanity, had ever felt fear. She discarded all traces of pride as she begged for mercy. Emil responded with a casual smile, promising her safety. Yet, by the time she realized the implications, it was too late. Delia's knowledge, position, and even her name had been stripped away, undergoing a complete transformation into a Yoma. On the phantom scale, Delia held the rank of general, similar to Li Jinlong and David Reagan. She arrived just in time for Arch's invasion of Great Roziam and participated in the operation to dismantle Great Roziam. For the Yoma, their primary objective was to acquire territories to rule, with the secondary task of subjugating humanity to ensure a steady supply of bodies for their race's possession. They were selective, preferring resilient, strong, and muscular bodies capable of withstanding the magical transformation driven by magicules. This made the sorting of bodies a crucial process. As semi-spiritual entities, once Yoma took control of someone, their need for sustenance essentially ceased to exist. It wasn't that they couldn't eat, they could absorb nutrients from food without issues, but hunger was no longer a concern. Nevertheless, they still preferred to target powerful and robust bodies for possession. So, the Yoma sought ways to thoroughly control and manipulate the human race for their own purposes. Their adopted plan involved eliminating the nation among the 5 with the harshest climate conditions, which happened to be Great Roziam. This region had relatively low agricultural output, with over half of its land deemed unsuitable for development. The inhabitants possessed resilient, spiritually strong bodies due to their challenging environment, but the Yoma ultimately concluded that no nation needed to exist here. Establishing a monarchy to govern the conquered lands was essential for control and management, but with Roziam no longer considered necessary, there was no urgency to preserve the royal dynasty. The Yoma had no intention of wiping out the entire population. Instead, they believed that by eliminating the Roziam royal lineage, the current political system would naturally collapse. In line with this plan, Pulcinella the Mad Priest had been inciting the populace, aiming to orchestrate a coup, with Delia supporting his efforts. Delia conducted a patrol of the palace grounds and let out an exasperated sigh. Regardless of where she looked, there was no trace of Roziam's imperial family, including the emperor and his entire household. This also applied to all high-ranking government officials and their families. Furthermore, all the knights working within the palace, along with the chamberlains and female attendants, had vanished without a trace. Despite thoroughly searching the palace and investigating hidden passages, they found no signs of those who had gone missing. Even after possessing a couple of palace staff members and delving into their extensive knowledge of the palace, no clues emerged. At this point, the only plausible conclusion was that these individuals had mysteriously disappeared.
How are things progressing on your end?
Emile, her colleague of equal rank, addressed her. As peers, they maintained a friendly rapport.
I give up! I have no idea where the great Roziam Emperor is hiding.
Well, that's a problem. They can't use dimensional control like we can.
No chance. On this world, folks would think that's divine intervention. The 7 sacred treasures can't even teleport themselves.
Delia stood her ground in her conviction. Memories of the robust human body she inhabited left her utterly convinced. The scarcity of magicules in this world made spellcasting almost impossible, and elemental magic like warp portals simply didn't exist. While she possessed skills like spatial motion at the moment, the transport gates summoned by this skill could only be used by a few individuals before losing their integrity. Therefore, no matter how you looked at it, it should have been impossible for anyone to escape the palace while they had it under siege. Emile, one of the more recent recruits, was the most physically gifted. He had been paired with a Yoma from the general class, which occupied the lower tier of the upper echelons. While he wasn't the world's strongest man, Delia assumed he wouldn't be familiar with concepts like transport magic. The body she currently inhabited was stronger and possessed much more knowledge of this world, giving her a sense of superiority over Emile.
Well,
Emile pondered.
That would imply a breach in our siege, but my instincts tell me that's not the case. I have a nagging feeling that we're overlooking something crucial.
He glanced at Delia's spear, a divine artifact from the 7 sacred treasures, renowned as the creation of a goddess. Somehow, it seemed strangely familiar to him. He couldn't quite pinpoint why but believed that the answer was hidden within his memories. Yoma could access the memories of the humans they possessed, yet they tended to neglect mundane details like the repetitive cycles of daily life. These humdrum memories were typically disregarded since they weren't deemed significant. Emile was no exception. He had a grasp of the essential aspects of his body's identity, skills, job nature, and acquaintances. However, he had completely overlooked memories such as the childhood experiences of the body he inhabited. That was why when he recalled the beautiful woman associated with his grandfather, all he could remember was the name, Grin. If he had realized that this was Velgrund, it would undoubtedly have raised serious concerns and compelled him to revise his plans.
That spear, though, I wonder if it holds a connection to Emile, the previous occupant of this body. Let me delve into my memories for a moment.
Emile couldn't shake off his unease. It clung to him like a shadow, gnawing at his thoughts. Although he doubted any link to the escape of the Roziam royal family, he still delved into his memories to ease his apprehension. On the contrary, Delia exuded unwavering confidence.
Oh, well, no need to dwell on a couple of fugitives. They don't stand a chance against us anyway. Let's disregard them and stick to the plan.
You have a point.
We initially planned to capture the royal family and entice the nation's elites to join our cause. But for now, let's abandon that strategy. Instead, we'll set this place ablaze, signaling to the world that great Roziam has met its end.
The original scheme involved announcing the public execution of the royal family, inciting the masses into a frenzy. The world's heroic figures, driven by civic duty, would be drawn into attempting to thwart the execution, ultimately falling prey to the Yoma. Ideally, this tactic would have lured Xianhua, the mightiest figure in the Chinese territories, and arguably the entire world, into their trap. Since she was not originally from Roziam, the Yoma took a gamble on whether she would intervene or not, but the stakes were low, so the outcome mattered little to them. Once Roziam descended into chaos, their focus would shift to the Chinese territories, where Xianhua was bound to step in. Thus, the Yoma believed that once they captured Xianhua, victory over this world would be imminent. Delia reveled in her own anticipation. It all seemed so straightforward. However, an urgent telepathic message arrived from Pulcinella, the mad priest.
Can you hear me?
Father Pulcinella, is something amiss? Why are you contacting me personally?
Well, a priest I dispatched to the Chinese lands ahead of me has sent back an unusual report. I had assigned him the task of pinpointing the locations of the Chinese commanders, but he claims he couldn't locate a single one.
What? Are the humans deceiving us?
I don't think so. I consider the possibility that it might be some kind of unique camouflage spell in this world, but none of us officers would be fooled by such tricks.
I agree. No one in this primitive world could be a real threat to us, no matter how hard they try.
Delia couldn't fathom the idea of being deceived, and she assumed her subordinates felt the same. Based on her memories from her human existence, even the 7 sacred treasures ranked lower in the Yoma hierarchy. Except for Xianhua, she believed no one else could stand against them. However, Pulcinella held reservations.
Don't get too arrogant, Delia. This world operates in the realm of physical existence, full of possibilities. With enough magic use, anything can happen. We only reach our full potential only when we inhabit physical bodies. Keep that in mind.
After his passionate speech, Delia acknowledged his perspective. The world's inferiority in sheer power was a result of its unique physical laws compared to what they were used to. She reminded herself to stay humble until the end of this invasion.
I apologize, Father. Your words have enlightened me.
Good. Remember them.
Yes, sir. Now, I have some issues to report from our side.
Delia saw this as an opportunity to update Pulcinella. Their mission was to capture the royal family, yet they found the palace deserted. A situation mirroring what Pulcinella had learned about in China heightened her sense of foreboding.
What? A similar situation in Roziam. I can see the palace from my location, but I haven't detected any anomalies. Did we lower our guard? I can't be certain, but I sense impending calamity.
What course of action should we take?
Delia shared his concern. Beside her, Emil, eavesdropping on their telepathic exchange, appeared equally anxious.
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. A big thanks to the AnimeKouhai patrons who made this video possible. Nate, Jason Martin, Zach Rawson, Jerry Sladek, Ray Perez, Smexy, Carl Stephen Bernadelle, Gareth Hashimoto, Steven Madison, Home Like Drop, Vastolord, Martin Ramos, Anselmo. Thank you so much for helping out. I'll see you guys in the next video.